is it just me, or is nobody talking about this fight at all? And Michael Johnson and Andre Fili. Weirdly enough, Michael Johnson ending up a year later from his fight with Gaethje, one half of Gaethje and Vic's co-main event. They had some bitter things to say to each other. It should be interesting, being that they're both red corner fighters too. They're going to be around each other an awful lot this week.
Yeah, it's probably just done in promo to the fight. Gaethje was making his debut. Johnson was the guy who was welcoming him to the UFC.
And Johnson said some foul shit to him though, man. Like when he said to him that when he was asking him who in his family had sex with who to create him, I was like, damn, bro. Like,
yeah,
not that serious.
Isn't that what Donald Trump calls locker room talk though? That's just that's just how it goes, man.
There you go, man. A little bit of American culture with our president, for better or for worse. This isn't a political podcast, so I won't.
I'm sorry, man. I should have went there.
No. It's not that you went there. It's just the fact that the president of my nation, when it comes to tongue, has got to be something that now us Americans are routine to deviate away from, just because they don't want to offend anybody or anything. But on the topic of this fight, though, it is a very intriguing. This is one of those fights for me that I look at when I look at this card on paper, and I think there's a lot of moving parts to this fight. Michael Johnson has actually called this fight in interviews recently a quote, word for word from Michael Johnson, an absolutely must-win fight for my career. He's right now pegged at -145 at American odds. Andre Fili on the comeback at +125. But Fili has had, outside of the hiccup against Calvin Kattar last summer, he's on quite a bit of a tear. Michael Johnson, the opposite. What are your initial thoughts of this co-main event?
Why is he at featherweight though? Like, what made him decide to drop? Because usually we see guys when they get older, they go up in weight.
You're talking about Johnson?
Why is he Johnson? Yeah. Why is he decided to? Do we know this? Why is he went to featherweight and went down to 145?
Well, this is his second fight. This is now his second fight at featherweight, being that he made his featherweight debut back in January in St. Louis. And, like every single typical Darren Elkins fight happens, Johnson was in complete control, and then he made one mistake, and Elkins capitalized and choked him out. But that being said, I mean, here's maybe a clue as to why he dropped down. Take a listen to Take a listen to his last 6 fights in the lightweight division.
Go on.
Edson Barbosa, which he won. Beneil Dariush, Nate Diaz, which that fight with Diaz was where the whole Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for,
motherfucker. Yeah.
Then he knocked out Poirier, and that was the last time Poirier's lost.
That was good. That was a good fight.
Then Khabib.
Oh, mold.
And then Gaethje. So Barbosa, Dariush, Diaz, Poirier, Khabib, Gaethje were his last 6 fights at lightweight. I mean,
nice, easy fights. Exactly right.
He went 2 and 4 in those, and I mean that's almost
good.
Respectable. Yeah, and the Edson Barbosa fight was a 4-fight winning streak. He lost the fight to Dariush by split decision, and obviously he could have won the Gaethje fight. Tagged Khabib. He was in control with Elkins. He has, though, on paper, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's lost 5 of his last 6. And this will be his 4th loss in a row if he can't turn the tables around against another Team Alpha Male featherweight in Andre Touchy Fili.
Touchy Fili. I love that nickname, Touchy Fili.
I do too, man. This is, once again, I interviewed Josh Emmett the other day, and he gave me an interesting perspective on account of these Team Alpha Male guys that have all of these training partners that all fight under the same promotional banner, that get these same matchups that their teammates have already had, and how it helps them immensely.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and Andre Fili, he said that they kind of, and I've seen in documentaries and videographies before, that these guys just literally bunk up at another one's house, because Team Alpha Male is a brotherhood. And they just bunk up at another one's house, and they'll share knowledge, share information, and share tendencies, and everything kind of adding up right now. Despite Michael Johnson being the favorite, I'm not the biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of taking him in this matchup. To be honest with you, I'm really not.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes from here other than out of the UFC, and it'd be a shame to see because I do like Michael Johnson. I do like his style. That victory over Poirier, man, I forgot all about that. That was glorious. I don't think anyone saw that coming. He must have been a dog going in that fight, right?
Ooh, he knocked him out cold. You asked if he was the underdog?
Must have been, right? He must have been because Poirier was on a good hot streak at that point as well, I'm sure.
He was a slight underdog, plus 150, so just barely.
Yeah, but I mean, like, glory. I don't think anyone really saw that coming. I remember at the time. I'm sure we did a prediction show and everybody was calling for Poirier, and Poirier obviously went on to do what he's doing now, and he's knocking on the door of the title. But yeah, but back to Michael Johnson. I mean, I don't know. It does seem like he's on a downward slide, right? How old is Michael Johnson now? I want to see like 32.
Michael
33.
Johnson is 32 years young.
32 years young. You're moving down to featherweight, which is a peculiar one, and you're coming off a couple of losses there. I can see why it's must win for him for sure. Is it must win and a great performance he needs though? I don't know.
No, to be honest with you, in this case, man, where you've got the track record that you have in your most recent activity, and like I said, a 6-fight stretch that went, okay, here's Barbosa, okay, here's Dariush, okay, here's Diaz, here's Poirier, here's Khabib, have fun. And obviously, you know, having the war with Gaethje that almost went his way. And with Michael Johnson, man, 6 fights ago, he was 8-3 in the UFC, and right. Now he finds himself at 9-9 in the UFC. I think the definite agenda for Henry Hooft and those guys in that camp has got to be do whatever it takes to get your hand raised at the end of the day. Look impressive on another day, but in terms of
just get the W.
Dude, yeah, man. I mean, you could be saving your spot on the roster. It doesn't matter if you're Michael Johnson or not. Losing 6 out of 7, and then he would drop to under 500 in the UFC. I don't know if they'll cut him. Do you think they would cut him? It'd be his 4th loss in a row, 6th out of 7. 17-14 is what he would drop to as a professional with one of the toughest, track records in all of MMA. But,
and one of the, like you said as well, and one of the deepest and stacked divisions in the UFC. Oh, no, beg your pardon, no, be it featherweight, excuse me. But would they cut him? Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Potentially, yes.
They don't need featherweights. They don't need featherweights at all.
We got plenty of other guys who could step in. Man, I hope not. I like Michael Johnson. I'm not too keen on Henry Hooft. Why is he always calling for his fighters not to quit? That's the worst advice ever. You ever heard him say that? Don't give up.
That's the worst corner advice, bro.
Yeah, I don't want to tell the guy how to do his job, but for Christ's sake, don't give up. So the other guy can hear you, right?
I'm like, guys, their plan is to not give up. What do we do? And to be honest with you, adversely, I think that might throw a wrench into Justin Gaethje's camp, to be honest with you. They hear he's not going to give up, and they're all like, oh, fuck, what do we do now, bro? But, yeah, no, that's a good point. I think Henry Hooft is one of the most respected and well-versed striking and kickboxing, particularly coaches in MMA. But as far as corner advice is concerned, yeah, they definitely do leave a little bit to be desired in the Black Stallion camp.
Public speaking, I don't think he's got a career in that later on. Motivational speaking, I don't think's for him.
Because I am very tall and I talk like this. What are you doing? He's catching you with the right hand.
Don't give up, Mikey. Don't give up. AJ